everybody. Welcome back to Barely Filtered. And we are on 2 of 4 in a series with Anna Kai, as you might know from Instagram as maybe both, and TikTok. Do you feel like you're more of a TikToker or like what are you?
Like TikTok happened for me first, but I feel like I use Instagram more personally.
Yeah,
Just
same.
because I'm a geriatric millennial.
I
But like
know.
probably both, maybe both. Haha.
I do feel like, do you think that's a real thing? Like as you get older, you get more stubborn about changing new things, like changing your ways. And I guess it's probably a personality thing too. But like Zach, my boyfriend calls me a boomer. That's like his thing. He's always calling me a boomer because I'm like,
he's that cool.
Literally him and his friends. I have sent him this clip yesterday from Instagram. It's like this comedian. It was the way Gen Zers break up, and it's all like no cap, sus, like one thing after the next, like all these like things that literally my 7-year-old says. That's the way Zach, who by the way is turning 40 tomorrow. That's the way he and his friends talk to each other. I think it's a decision. Like if you I don't know. I think I decided a little while ago that I was an old person, so I kind of stopped trying to get with the new lingo. But like, I don't want to say the same slang that my 7-year-old is saying.
No, that's fair. But I also think it's who you're surrounded by. And I think you're influenced obviously by, what you hear. Because I remember I was at lunch with a girlfriend of mine who's my age, and she's an influencer, but she's like an OG influencer.
Okay.
Like she came up like 12, she's been doing it for like 15 years. So she comes from like a time when it was just all photos and very editorial, and she's all fashion and very, very luxury. And I said to her, I don't remember the context, but I was like, oh, that tracks. And I didn't even think I was like using Gen Z lingo.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's a normal thing to say too, but it is like more, it's like it is Gen Z now.
Yeah. And she was like, oh, that tracks. She's like, you're so TikTok. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. You know what? She's probably right. Like if I wasn't on TikTok and if I wasn't hanging out with Gen Z people or like listening to them, I probably wouldn't have used that in my vernacular,
Really?
So
I feel like I've said that. I feel like,
but that you're in California. The difference is you're in California. I'm in New England. Like there's no way I would have ever. That tracks.
I feel like that's something I've always said. But I get it. It is now. It's something that's like cool to say.
I've literally never said that before until TikTok. So I think that was fair. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Right. We just like pick up on these things.
Like I've met 30-year-olds that are like older than me or feel older than me. And I've met like 40-year-olds that feel younger and hipper than me.
Yeah, like, it is true. It almost makes you want to be a little immature because if that's going to make me look younger, then maybe I do want to act more immature. I think my whole life I've wanted to act mature so I could seem older because I always wanted to be like an older girl when I was younger. But now that I actually am old, I'm like, oh shit, we need to switch the script. This all needs to change.
See, I love being older. No, I want to be like 70 years old or 80 years old and just like retired in peace.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like at heart, the things that I gravitate towards, like I like to knit, I like to bake, I like to like putter around my house in slippers and a robe like that. Those are my passions actually. So for somebody to be like, let's go to dinner at 10 o'clock and stay out all that I have to be on, I'm not going to lie. Like if you want me to stay out all night and party, I'm going to need to be on some serious drugs because I can't do that by my own volition. That's just not in my makeup.
Wait, you know what? I was literally just reading this right before you guys hopped on. I was reading this article about how Gen Z loves grandma hobbies, like knitting, gardening, baking. They love repetitive hobbies like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a scientific reason you like it. And I'm going to butcher it because I'm not a scientist, but it's something about the repetitiveness of it that like releases some sort of like chemical in your brain that relaxes you and is like less anxiety inducing. So it's actually very Gen Z of you to like grandma hobbies.
Interesting.
Yes. So you're both the grandma and Gen Z.
So
Gen Z is like skewing older, I guess.
Look at me. I was being Gen Z and I didn't even know it.
I know. So you are a boomer, but you are a Gen Z too. Maybe fucking both.
Maybe both.
like Henry David Thoreau said, I am large. I contain multitudes. Or was that Walt Whitman? I think that was Walt Whitman.
I don't know, but now you're really sounding like a boomer.
I know.
Speaking of boomers, my mom just texts me and goes, Trader Joe's, comma, Trader Joe's was giving out root beer floats as a little sample, period. What a magnificent store. Literally, that is what boomers do. We do not need all the punctuation. We don't need even just the word magnificent. We're not going to use that.
But I actually love the fact, like, that is how we should live. Yeah. We should find joy and splendor in Trader Joe's. In the little thing,
should. That really is a boomer thing of just, what is that? Where they're just like, I don't know, my mom's always raving about the littlest things. She's like, oh, these birds outside my window, they're just magnificent. They're like, is that something that just happens when you get older? All of a sudden you get this interest in birds, like birding. Is that innately something that comes with age? You just start noticing all the birds?
Well, my mother-in-law is 71 and she is very interested in birds as well. So maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe again, as you get older, I think you learn to appreciate the things like young people take for granted and the things that like we don't think about because we're too busy trying to get to the next place or the next step or the next guy, you know? Like that's what I think it's like, you know, the older you get, the more you slow down. And I feel that too, even in my 30s versus my 20s. In my 20s, I was like, time is running out. I've got to accomplish all this stuff before 30. If I don't make, you know, I'd set a deadline for myself. I was like, if I don't make it as an actress before 30, I'm going to quit because I've given it like a solid 8 years post-college. If it doesn't happen, I'll just quit. I don't know what I thought was going to happen when I turned 30, but I think the thought was like, I'll just like roll over and die. I don't know. Like, I think, and I turned 30 and I was like, wait, I'm like not remotely interested in quitting anything. So I started a blog, which was super practical, but you know, now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, oh, I have so far to go if I'm lucky enough to live a very long, you know, full life.
Right.
So like we got time, you know?
Yeah.
Regardless of what lingo you use, it doesn't matter. You could speak like Gen Z, you could speak like an Elizabethan, you know, author. I don't know. I don't care. Like your life. Look at the birds. So my parents do this thing where they're really into plants, or my mom is at least. So she has a lot of plants indoors. I am not an indoor plant person. Like I own 2 plants only because my mom gave me one and my mother-in-law gave me the other. And it's the only reason they're alive is because they're 2 plants that don't require watering every day. One is a baby rubber plant that you water like once every 4 days. But like if you forget to water it for like 2 weeks, it's still alive.
Okay.
And then the other one is an orchid. And that literally
orchids are tough.
Well, yeah, but it's because they're more of an air plant, as my mother-in-law put it. She said that I only water it half a cup every 2 weeks. Half a cup of water every 2 weeks. So that's why it's like most people overwater them. So anyways, yeah, they're like my mom is always just like looking at her plants and I'm like, that's great. I wish I got that much joy out of this green thing, you know?
Yeah.
But like, maybe we'll get there.
Maybe we will get there. I think I am. See, that's the thing. I think with age, you kind of do start to appreciate the little things more because you realize that the big things actually are not that great. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but.
Okay. Well, speaking of the big things, like, you know, I think you and I were talking about this offline, but it's like, after having gone through a wedding, am like not into weddings. And like that is like a big thing that since the time I was little, I was told, oh my God, you're going to be like a fucking princess on your wedding day and you're going to love it. And it's going to be the best day of your life. And honestly, like I say this all the time to my husband, and I don't know anybody else that feels this way because it feels like almost sacrilege to admit it, but I'm okay admitting it. Like I did not really enjoy my wedding weekend. I'm glad we did it because it was cool to get all of our families together. And like, I think it was really cool for my parents to see their only daughter get married in a very traditional, big American fashion, especially because like they did not have a wedding. They got married in communist China. And so they took wedding photos in like a borrowed dress and tux, and that was it. So I think it was cool for them to see, but like if Dave and I could go back and do it all over again, we would not have a traditional wedding. We'd elope. We'd probably like, I don't know, rent out like the wine room at L'Artusi, which is this Italian restaurant that we love in the city, and just have a party. Like, I just think like when you think about like, and I know plenty of people love their weddings, but like, I'm like, I cannot be the only person that thought their wedding was just stressful as fuck.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I did not. I enjoyed my wedding, I think, least of everybody who was there. And it was like a big week event, pretty much. We rented out this entire hotel called Hotel Essentia, which is a beautiful hotel in the Riviera Maya, Mexico. Spent a fortune. And yeah, and I definitely had the least fun out of everybody. And I feel like I tend to not have I tend to have more fun on random occasions than on ones that have been anticipated. I don't know what that is. Like, I don't like to be a bridesmaid. I don't like to be on group text. I don't like to be counted on for things, I guess. I don't know. I just want to disappear. I
have never felt a statement harder. I've only been a bridesmaid a couple times because a lot of my girlfriends either did a tiny wedding party where it was just like their sister and like sister-in-law, or they didn't do a wedding party. But like, I think the whole thing about like our wedding versus like, I actually have fun at other people's weddings if I'm not in the bridal party, because I feel like as the bride, you're still like the host, right? And as a host, you have to make sure everyone else is having a good time.
Right.
You can't just like fuck off and talk to like, Aunt Jane in the corner for an hour and a half. You have to like, and I don't have any, but it's just like, you have to like move your way around. You have to make sure you say hi to everybody. My dresses were gorgeous, but they were not comfortable to sit around in. So I just basically couldn't breathe the whole night. It was just like, I think when there's that much anticipation for something being like the best moment of your life or the best day of your life, like, I'm not going to say it's always disappointing because I definitely know people that like love their weddings, but maybe here's the other thing. Okay. Here's a theory I have too, is like, I think some people, and not all, like, we are in a business where we get a lot of attention. Like, it's a very parasocial relationship, right?
Yeah.
With the audience or the people that watch us. So it's like, I get enough like random attention. Like, I don't need it in my like personal life. Whereas like, I do have some friends that turned into absolute bridezillas and I love them to death, but it's like, oh damn, I didn't know this was in you, because they're not getting that attention every day from their corporate jobs.
Oh,
the wedding is the one time you get to be the star of the show. And like every day I run some podunk show on my social channels. I don't need to be the star of my wedding.
Right.
And it's like, whatever validation that people get that turns them into a bridezilla for their wedding, I'm getting from my job. And
I feel that I don't have fond memories of my wedding. I think I'll probably have I'll get married again. I really just don't care to have a big wedding, but I also don't want it to be like, oh, well, it's my second wedding, so like it doesn't matter, because that's not really fair to Zach, who would be his first wedding.
Well, I would say like, if you guys were to get married, it's your second wedding and a chance to do it the way you want it so that you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't think again, like it's not that I wish I could get a divorce from Dave so I could have a wedding again, but like we always joke, we're like, okay, if this doesn't work out, like neither one of us is doing a wedding again. Or like if we ever renewed our vows, which honestly just sounds like an excuse to throw a party, you know? Like if we renewed our vows at like year 5 or year 10, again, we would just throw a party with all of our friends.
Renewing vows is such a funny concept. It's like, are they getting dusty? Do they need like a revamp? Has somebody forgotten what they are? I don't know, like, what's the point of this?
I have no idea. Again, I think it's an excuse to throw a party, which I'm down for,
Yeah.
I've never been to a vow renewal. I don't know anybody that's done one, but like I could get into that, I guess, for a party. People just need an excuse to celebrate. Like we threw a big party for Dave's 40th last year, and that was really fun, but also super stressful only because we threw it at our house. And we rented a tent, we got catering and everything. I thought I had my ass covered for the event so that I could actually have a good time while my husband was getting shit canned with all of his friends. But we didn't get like a person to clean and like serve, which was like the
The
biggest
worst. Yeah,
fucking mistake I made. So I just spent the whole night like, and people helped and everything, but it was just like, if we're ever gonna do this again, I'm gonna have a cleaner like glued to my side,
right? Just to
time.
follow around. That's actually good information that I need to check on because Zach's birthday party, 40th birthday party, is in 2 days, and he rented out this big venue, and it's like we're not catering, but it's like open bar, whatever, like 150 people, most of which I don't even think he knows really. It's kind of like you could bring a guest, but I don't know. So after this, I'm actually going there because he wants me to check out the lighting because he's like a big lighting person, and he wants to know if like we need something extra for the lighting. I don't know. I'm not good at that.
What's being lit?
So it's in Venice on Abbot Kinney. And so I asked chat, I was like, what color lighting is a good vibe for like a night birthday party? And chat said blues, purples, and greens, like jewel tones. So I have to go in there today and make sure that there's some jewel tone lights and that they're coming in from the right angles. I don't know. And he's like, I'm just going to hire somebody to be like strictly lighting. I'm like, okay, I feel like you're overthinking this. Meanwhile, he's surfing in Nicaragua right now. So that's why I have to go take care of it. He's coming back tomorrow. Yeah. This is where like you get to know people. I don't think he knows yet that I'm not really a detail person. So like big picture, I got you, but like I probably am forgetting something.
Yeah. I know. Like that is, I mean, that sounds like really fun. ? The party. 150 people. Yeah. I don't know 150 people.
No, neither do I.
Wait, who are these people?
He has a lot of friends. Like I said before, I'm the old one out of the two of us, even though he's older than me. Like he has a lot of friends. I don't have that many friends, but I think that's what happens when you're like 40 and you live in Venice and you don't have any kids. You just hang out with friends. This is the life. I don't know. I've had kids since I was in my 20s, so I don't know what it's like to be able to go out like on a Wednesday night.
I literally have no idea. I mean, we don't have kids, but like I'm not going out on Wednesday nights. And when I met Dave, he was 34.
And you live in the burbs of Connecticut, so it's different.
But we were living in New York at the time.
Oh, okay.
I think some people are just really social. Like I just think,
Yeah. Some people just, I don't know, maybe people just like him more than people like me.
Well, I think you said earlier, your goal is to just like retreat from society. Like if you're giving off that kind of energy, you're probably not meeting a ton of new people. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think that's great. Like that's the kind of energy I give off, I think, nowadays. It's just kind of like, okay, like if it's going to take too much effort to try and be friends with this one person, then it's just probably not going to work out. It's so hard to make friends as an adult. People are always like asking me like, how do I make friends as an adult? I'm honestly like Bumble BFF. I say
Is that a thing?
That's a thing. Not for me, because again, when I moved to Connecticut, I was not looking for new friends, and I'm still not. But if you are, I think Bumble BFF is actually great, because I had a couple of girlfriends move from the East Coast to the West Coast, knowing nobody. They changed for jobs, and they all went on Bumble BFF at the beginning, and now they're all super close with a bunch of girls they met on that app, which I think is amazing. I was like, honestly, like fuck the dating apps, like friendship apps,
Yeah, that actually is such a good idea.
But it is weird to me that Bumble is the only app to have capitalized on that idea.
Right.
That there is no other. Like, why hasn't Hinge come out with a BFF? I don't know.
That's a good question. Maybe can you patent something like that? I don't know. But I feel like that is a great idea, because people, adults are kind of forgetting how to make friends as you get older.
Yeah. And it's like, back to our wedding, as I was looking at the guest list, all of our friends were basically from high school and college. And we got married when I had just turned 32 and he was 38. Yeah. So that means like, I think 4 people were from adulthood. Yeah. And 2, if you count the fact that those 4 were couples. So it was like 2 people really. And so it is just hard. I don't know what the answer is, but I do think like, as you get older, it just becomes like really, oh, you know what? I read this really interesting article that said, the reason why you have so many friendships and bonds from when you're younger is because when you're in high school and you're college, you're all going through the same shit at the same time. And so friendship is really kind of a relational thing.
Right.
You're relating to each other. And because you're going through the same experiences at the same time, you're like bonded to one another.
Yeah.
So like I think about a lot of my girlfriends from high school and college today. I'm like, oh, if I met them as an adult, we might not be friends, not because they're bad people, but because we're just really different.
Right.
But
totally.
we still totally get along. It's like they understand me, I understand them, even though we live completely different lives because we have this shared history. Whereas when you're meeting as adults, you don't have a shared history.
Right. Or that's why I think it's so easy to make friends when you have kids though. And because some of my best friends now are other moms that were going through the same thing. Our kids were in the same phases, particularly with your first kid. I think you really gravitate towards moms that are going through the same thing because you're like, fuck, I don't know what's going to come next, but this shit is wild. Like just all the different phases and everything, which is why I also think it makes it that much more special when you do really connect with like a random ass person that you have nothing in common with and your lives are so different. Because once in a while that happens and it's like the most unlikely person that you just have this bond with. And I love that. You know what? When I used to bartend and like waitress in my dad's restaurants in Boston, I'd make a friend like that. I'd be like some 50-year-old gay guy that I have nothing in common with that was like also a server or something. And we just were like best friends. And you know, when you just meet somebody and you click like that, I love that.
No, I love it too. And I think that's when it's like, I don't believe in soulmates, but then I think about moments like that. Like one of my best girlfriends I met shortly after college, but it was still after college. It was out of the context. And I was maybe 26 and she was 24. And we met at Mad Decent, which I don't know if you know what that is, but that was like a music festival in Brooklyn back in the day. So we met because I was going out with a bunch of girlfriends to that music festival. And she knew somebody from that group. But it was just a bunch of people, honestly, like doing Molly and getting high together and going to listen to EDM. And I remember meeting her and we just like instantaneously clicked. There was just like sort of this like weird, like, I was just like, oh, like I gave her a hug. I was like, so nice to meet you. And then like, we just spent like the whole night together. And like, obviously we were on drugs, but like everybody else was too. Like we just really, really connected. And like, she's still one of my best friends to this day. And we're really similar, so that helps. But like, yeah, it is interesting, I'm like, oh, I think soulmates exist for friends, maybe not for men. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Adult friendships. What a concept. We had talked about how you feel, which I think is very interesting, how you feel about farting in front of your partner. And strangely enough, we don't have the same perspective on this. And I think people will be surprised that our perspectives are a little swapped for our personalities, I think.
My opinion on farting, for those of you who don't even know, is that you should just do it in front of your partner. Let your fruit flag fly. Like I fart in front of my husband, he farts in front of me, everything's fine. Like that's it. I don't think
all the time. Or do you try to spare it or you just don't at all?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Only like, okay, if we're in bed and like I've had, when you get sort of IBS tummy before your period and like the farts really smell.
That's your surge in progesterone.
Yeah, that sucks. That time of the month, like what I'll do is if we're in bed and I need to fart, I'll like go into my closet. So he like doesn't have to like.
That's nice of you.
Yeah. I'll tell him, I'll be like, I need to fart. And he's like, please go into the closet.
He's like, please go into your designated farting space.
Yeah. And he'll do the same. Like we won't do it. But like if we're on the couch together, like whatever, it'll pass. This too shall pass.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, no, my take on this whole thing. And like, I would, obviously I'm in a new relationship. So, but I'm talking in general. In all of my relationships, long and short, there's no farting in front of each other. I mean, guys would fart in front of me. I would find it disgusting, and I'm frankly a little turned off by it. I would never fart in front of a guy because I just feel like if I want to remain looking a certain way to them, and I know I'm going to get people are going to think I'm such an idiot because this doesn't feel very feminist, but I just feel like you want to keep some kind of an air of mystery. And for that reason, I don't think like pooping in front of them, farting in front of them, even peeing with the door open, I don't do that either. If I'm on the phone and I'm peeing, I'll mute the phone and I'll say like, oh, I'm going to mute the phone because I'm peeing. Only because I just feel like, I don't know, there's certain ways that you want to remain viewed in their eyes, for me at least. And that's why I don't.
And I think that's fair. And here's the other thing is it's not like a double standard for you. It's like you find it a turnoff when they do it in front of you.
Yeah.
So you hold yourself to the same standard.
That's true. Okay, so that's a good point.
I don't find it gross when people do it in front of me. Like girl, guy, non-binary, whatever you want to do. You're a dog, you fart in front of me. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of like, I think maybe this is like the crux of where we differ in terms of like how we look at farting is like, I could give 0 fucks what my man thinks about me or anybody at this point. Like I'm actively trying to get just like, no, not actively, but like, I really don't care. And that is like the best part about the last few years. I was even thinking about this the other day and how like, I remember for my wedding, I had a friend who couldn't come for a very legitimate reason. And she felt badly about it, but I was like, I don't care. Like, you can't come because of a family obligation. Like, this happens. Plenty of people like, it happens, right? It's like prime summer weekend. And at first it was like, okay, she felt badly about it. She told me, but then she kept, needing like reassurance that it was going to be okay. And then it's like, at some point it becomes less about the fact that you feel badly that you can't show up for me.
Yeah.
And more about the fact that you don't want me to see you a certain way.
Right.
And that I think is a very like really, really exhausting way to exist. So I'd rather people be like, well, Anna's kind of a bitch and like, she doesn't show up. She's not going to feel obligated to show up. She doesn't want to. Then people will be like, oh, she's so great. Like, she's always there. Like, she's always there when I need her because 100%. That takes from me. That
I know. Like, I don't take things personally when if somebody can't show up for whatever reason, then I never take things like that personally, mostly because I really appreciate being given that same grace, being somebody who oftentimes cannot show up for certain reasons, or like I'm not, or like I think we need to also justify, or I think we need to normalize like just I don't want to as an excuse. And and my friend did that to me the other day. I was like, please come with me to this party, and she was like, and she wasn't answering me, and it was been a couple of days, and I'm like, stop ignoring my texts, and she's like, Aurora, I just really don't want to. Like, I don't like to meet new people. And I'm like, okay, fine. She literally just doesn't like to meet you. Yeah, exactly. But
I love that. Yeah. I love that because I don't like feeling forced to go to things. And like,
I don't either.
I have some friends who will guilt trip me into going to certain parties or whatever, because like, and it's like, okay, well, you just want like a body count there. And I guess it's like, I hold people to the same standard I hold myself to. Like, I am not going to expect you to show up for really like anything. I also don't throw, it's like, I was thinking about this, like when we have our one and likely only kid, I'm probably not going to have a baby shower. Like, I just don't, like, my friends are all over the place. I don't know. Like, as somebody who did not particularly enjoy all the pre-wedding festivities and the wedding, I was just like, I don't need, like, I'll just buy what I need. Like, I don't need people to come. Like, I don't like games, and you play games at baby showers.
Well, you don't have to, because I was in charge of the games for my sister's baby shower, and every single one got shut down. And I don't, and I think that it's been like there's been a lot of contention because people like me come across as like being selfish or rude or, not caring. And the truth is, there is like definitely an element of not caring, but it's the taking it personally that has gotten me, that really like goes up my ass. I'm not going to lie. It's when people take things personally. Like I have a friend who canceled last week, and she was supposed to go to a party with me. She ended up making plans to go do something else with somebody. And And I was like, okay, in my head, could I have been mad at her? She made me believe that she was going to come to this party with me. I planned my whole week around it, and then she bails because is doing something that she'd rather do. I could be mad about it, but the thing is, it's like she's doing what's best for her. Everybody does what they think is best for them, and if they're not doing what they think is best for them, and they're sacrificing that for you, I don't think that's a good thing either. Because there's only so long that somebody can do that, and then ultimately they get resentful at you if they're always having to kind of bend their own wants and needs for you in order to not make you upset. Does that make sense?
100%. But I don't even say that's selfish. It's not selfish. It's just acting in your own best interest. And I think there's a fine line between that. It's like, I think of selfishness as like really a constant repetitive pattern of behavior at somebody else's detriment versus like, I'm not like, as a person, I'm not going to ask you to put yourself out to do something that I know you don't want to do, but by the same accord, I expect you to do the same. Like, don't ask me if I want to go backpacking in Argentina. And like, that's what you want to do for your bachelorette. And like, that's the only thing you want. Like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm sorry. I've also crossed off, like, I'm just at this point not going to certain countries because I just don't want to, because I've seen enough. I'm not itching to travel. I'm good. But I think it's like when you place too much stock in what everybody else around you is doing. And I think here's an argument for having less friends and for having a smaller community is that when you have less friends in a smaller community, you do feel less pressure to act in accordance with how everyone else is acting. So, I think we were talking about this offline. It's just like, for those of you who didn't follow on the Candace and Brandon Miller, that whole tragedy that happened in the Hamptons. Candace Miller is an influencer. She runs like a mommy blog, Mama and Tata, and Brandon Miller, her husband, commits suicide because he was going bankrupt, essentially. And they were living a very, 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 very high-end lifestyle. Like, I don't know the numbers, but there's a really interesting New York Times article on it. I remember reading it when it broke over Christmas, because I think he commits suicide at the end of the summer in the Hamptons, in the garage of their Hamptons house.
Wow.
And
I think he left her in like $30 million worth of debt, something like that.
Exactly. And she never knew anything to do with the finances. And he never told her. And they just kept up this image of this really wealthy couple. And it's like, why? For who? Like, I think about those two girls, their daughters. I think those girls would rather just be like middle class or even poor and have their father with them.
Yeah.
Than living this crazy ass lifestyle with yachts and whatever. And like have to lose your father at like the age of 8. I know what decision I would make if that were my decision to make as a child.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the most recent White Lotus series. Did you watch it?
No, I haven't.
Well, that's kind of one of the themes is like this rich family, while they're there, the husband finds out that basically he's been found out that he's embezzled or done something illegal. And so he's going to lose everything. And he kind of like throughout, I'm not giving anything away, but he tries to kill himself throughout the whole episode, or he's like planning it. Right. Because he thinks his family would be better off without him. And you definitely know this viral line where his wife is like, I just don't think at this age I'm meant to live an uncomfortable life. Yeah. I just don't have the will. That was his wife. She didn't know yet, but she's basically hinting to the fact of like, if you don't have money and you can't support this lifestyle and anything needs to be uncomfortable for me, then like, I just would rather be dead.
And I think, you want to talk about I think there's a lot of misconceptions around feminism or whatever. I think feminism is kind of like having a choice to live how you want to live. That's my definition, whether that is staying at home or you can be a feminist and a stay-at-home mom. But what I think is anti-feminist is putting that bullshit on a man when you don't work yourself. Like, I don't know what it is about, maybe because like I grew up with like two parents who very much divided the housework. Like, no, there was no like, my dad made more money and my mom stayed at home sometimes. So it was very much like a team effort. And I saw that growing up, just being like, no cog in the wheel could have been missing. But like this whole idea, and I remember reading about Candace and Brandon Miller when that news article came out, and it just seemed like, I don't know her. So, and she went through something horrific, but it's like, girl, You didn't know. And if you really didn't know, that was chosen. That's willful ignorance. And I don't think women should have that decision. Like, I don't think women should have a choice to be ignorant about their finances. And we still have that choice. That's the thing. Men really don't have that choice. They have to know how much is in the bank account, savings, retirement, everything. Like, what are we doing to invest? Women still have the option to be ignorant about their finances. And I think that's a shame, you know? And I think that's what shit, like, you know, White Lotus is like a fictionalized example, but Candace and Brandon Miller are a perfect example. Like, if maybe she didn't, you know, there's so many ways you can pressure a man into being like, well, I'm with you because you provide this lifestyle. And if you can't, like, you know, go off yourself. It's like, she might not have said it directly. And I'm not saying she caused her husband's death, but I'm sure she didn't help it, because it's like, if you as a woman know that your family is financially struggling, maybe she could have said to him, we don't need to live this lifestyle. You're not in this alone, you know?
Right. And well, maybe she did. Who knows? Who knows if she did or not? But it's just, I mean, how does one get so far in though, where the only option is death? I mean, I guess the only option for him was not death, but I guess it's just, how do you get to a place where you can't turn back?
I think it's you
can't just downgrade. He could. I don't know.
The shame. People die of shame more than they die of not anything else, but they die of shame, and that's ultimately what killed him.
Right.
Obviously, the act of, you know, I think he killed himself by running his car in his garage. Jeez. That's what killed him, but it's the shame, and it's the shame of what will people think. And so that's why I'm always saying, like, stop giving a fuck about what people think. Other people's opinions are not going to kill you, but your opinion of yourself will, if you let it.
It's interesting because I kind of thought that was something you outgrow. And I think in a healthy person, it is something that you care less and less about as you get older, which I think is one of the unspoken blessings of aging. You kind of do care less and less what other people think, because I think you realize, like, you look back at the times where you cared a lot and you realize how little it mattered, and how like nothing amazing ever came out of motivation for somebody else, you know, of doing something for somebody else, to look a certain way to somebody else. Right.
Yeah. But I think age does not make you wiser. I've seen plenty of people who are in their quote unquote golden years who care way too much about what other people think, who have way too much time on their hands.
Yeah.
Like, I just, you know, and this is why I always think, like, having a community around you is important. You know, it's funny, like, growing up, I always thought, like, oh, I wish I was like white as a kid, and like my parents were wealthy, and like we could join a country club and had all these friends and everything. And like, now that I'm older and I've seen what it's like to have a quote unquote community like that, and to have, it's not always this like supportive environment that you think it is.
Yeah.
It's just everybody else is a measuring stick for your own life.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like, it's better to have fewer people in your life, but people that actually make a difference and care about you and you care about them, than to have this like gaggle of friends where, you could fill a room, you know, you could have a 300-person wedding. Like, none of them give a shit about you. And they're all going back to their hotels after being like, well, I don't like her flowers there. And oh my God, did she choose that? And, you know, it's like, that's how it all is. It's like, I have no desire in my life at this point to have superficial female friendships or any kind of friendships where everybody just meets once a week to kind of trade lives and who's doing better than the other, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
So,
I agree with that.
Yeah, with Candace and Brandon Miller, I think it's like, that is maybe what happened. We don't know. But like, you know, don't tell me that wasn't part of it. Like, why would you kill yourself just because you're bankrupt? Because you can't deal with the shame of people saying around you, oh, he has no money. Who gives a shit? You know?
I think
you're
it's
better
just
off alive than dead.
Right. Well, I don't know. Sometimes you're worth more dead than alive. Maybe he was wanting to get his family to get the insurance policy or something.
But that's insane. That means you place a higher value on money than life. And I never want to live like that.
No,
if
me neither.
I had to give away if you told me my parents could live forever and tomorrow I'd have to sell everything and have to make all of our money all over again, I'm like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Like, yeah. Hands down. Yeah. Money is great. I love money, but like, to a point, you can't value it more than people.
No. Oh my God. I mean, absolutely not. I agree with you on that. Agree with you on that one. Hopefully she's okay, that girl. I heard that she's living somewhere in Florida in like a borrowed mansion.
She's living in like Diane von Furstenberg's apartment last I heard, which is absolutely freaking amazing. So I'm like, go girl, like
I know.
Do what you got to do to keep your girls like normal and safe and sane. But yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine any amount of money that would make me think, yeah, it'd be better to have this money than to not have my husband in the picture. Like you could be like,
but I feel like you're saying that like you think she had something to do with it. Maybe she was totally ignorant of everything.
Yeah, but that's a choice. That's what I'm saying. I don't think she has anything to do with it. I think it's a choice to stay ignorant as to how much money you have. And if that was the case, maybe she knew exactly what was going on. The way the New York Times article presented it and the way things, kind of played out in the media, which I'm willing to be skeptical about, but let's just take it at face value and say it was true. She basically wiped her hands of all financial responsibility. She was responsible for the girls, the parties, the planning, the image, and Brandon was responsible for everything else. So in that regard, it is a choice to be ignorant.
Yeah.
But
also I do kind of feel like you can't play every job. Like
no, but
and you do have to believe your husband. I mean, yeah, should she have like seen some documentation? I don't know. Maybe it all looked legit. She didn't know that he was borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, that sort of thing.
I don't think it should be an option to not, and like, no, you can't play every job, but that's when you say to your husband, you got to handle some of the kid stuff. I want to know what's going on financially. Yeah. And again, I think that's again a societal thing where we allow women to not know what's going on financially. Like you have to know what's going on with your money because it's just you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, I know exactly what's going on, Dave. We make these decisions together, but I still know women our age where in this day and age, at our generation, where they're like, I don't look at a bill. I don't look at a bank account statement, anything. So like that means if your husband dropped dead tomorrow, you'd figure it out eventually, but shit would be really tough for a while.
Yeah, that's true. It is true. So let's say the situation was reversed and the woman was the one who was in charge of all the finances and she killed herself, leaving, her kids and husband to bear the burden of everything that she has left in their wake. I feel like we would be taking the situation much differently. I don't think the man would have been able to get away with not bearing any financial responsibility. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the exact point that I'm trying to make is that as a man, it is not socially acceptable to not know what's going on with the money in your house, but as a woman, it still is. So like if, Candace was the one who is making all the money and she commits suicide because they were going bankrupt, I think people would look at Brandon and be like, how could you? How shameful is it? How could you not know? How shameful? Like, there would be a lot of things, but because it's like, well, Candace like was busy raising the children. And like, yeah, she was. But I just think like you got to have your head in the sand a little bit if you don't know at all what's going on. And a lot of women don't. Like,
right.
I've heard of that, not just Candace and Brandon Miller. I know anecdotally in my own life, like women whose husbands have just been sort of paying the bills or not paying the bills and they don't find out until the bills don't get paid. It's like, oh, the country club calls up and it's like, hey, your husband hasn't paid the bills. We can't reach him. And she's like, what's going on? It's like, you can't act surprised because you chose not to know. Yeah. So it's like, so that's my whole point is that like, I don't know, but again, based on that New York Times article, it does seem like she wiped her hands clean of that financial situation. And in which case I think like, well, she's not doing that now because she has no choice to,
Yeah.
Unless she's found a sugar daddy, which,
sounds like maybe she has, or sugar mama, Diane von Furstenberg.
I know, who knows? But yeah, I say this not because I'm trying to like be anti-feminist or be hard on the woman, but to say like, take more responsibility for your own life. You can't just be like, oh my God, like this happened to me. My husband killed himself. And it's like, what did you do? Like,
right.
Did you at all contribute to, you're not responsible for him killing himself. There's a layer of mental illness and everything in there too. But it's like, why didn't you know? That's your fault for not knowing that you guys were going bankrupt.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm a little less feminist on this topic, but I do see where you're coming from. But I also feel like there's a certain, when you marry somebody, you got to try. I see what you're saying. You are taking a risk. I think marriage is a risk. I think trying to see all sides of everything that's going on in the financial situation of a marriage is not always as simple as like, let me just be on the statements, but I get it. I get what you're saying. And I think women should make more of an effort to be involved in the finances. That's something I've had no interest in my relationships. And so it's not something that I've gravitated towards. And it made it difficult for me when I got divorced. Definitely. If I was more involved in the decision-making of finances, my divorce would have been a lot less stressful for me because, I paid for things. I spent all my money paying for things, but none of it was on the books because I paid for things that we didn't really keep track of that well, like, Costco trips and kids' extracurricular stuff and things like that, where he, paid the mortgage. And so when push came to shove, like at the end, when lawyers were like, okay, let me see like evidence of what you put into this relationship, it was kind of like, okay, well, I don't have any, but here's 2 kids.
But you know what? I think there's like a huge discrepancy between what you're talking about. I actually don't really believe in having, like, Dave and I have separate bank accounts, and we don't have like a shared account, but like the money just moves between our 2 accounts. It doesn't really, I don't believe in keeping track of like who paid for what in a marriage, because I think at that point you're a unit, right? You're going into a marriage with a certain level of trust. I'm just talking about like, I'm not even saying as a woman, you have to make all the investments. You should know how much money you have though. That is a baseline thing. And it's like, if you're going bankrupt, like you have chosen to be ignorant about that for a really long time. Yeah. And so
I don't know, these very, very wealthy people with these lifestyles, I don't think it could take that long to go bankrupt. I feel like buy one yacht and you're bankrupt. I don't know.
I know. But like I think in terms of like what you described, like I think your divorce was going to be tough no matter what. Yeah. And you went to it not thinking you were going to get divorced. You had 2 kids. Like that makes sense. And I think in general, it does make sense. Like that's how our relationship works. Like we bought our house. Like my husband, the mortgage comes from my husband's account, but then I pay for all the furniture, all the utility bills, like all that stuff. It's like, well, we're not being like, okay, well this month, I think that's too tit for tat, but you knew, like you had a general sense of what was going on. Like you kind of knew what your net worth was, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whereas like, it does not appear that Candace Miller really knew, or she was willing to just be like, oh yeah, we have a lot of money and I'm just refusing to believe otherwise.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Ignorance is bliss. Okay, Anna. Well, we got to wrap this up today. Yeah. We covered a lot of random topics today. I hope you guys got something out of it. Sometimes we just, we can't stick to one topic, or we can't stick to really any relevant topics, but I had fun talking to you as always.